Welcome to another live. So this live is going to be about Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, and he is the one who did a lot for us when it comes to human psychology, personality types. He is the originator of extroversion, introversion, the cognitive functions, all of the good stuff. So for him, oh, my hands just made a weird sound. Anyway, so for his sake today, I figured we do a little celebration together. So whoever jumps on, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about him and the 16 types and the cognitive functions, all the good stuff, etc., right? So, okay, I see some people are joining. Hello, welcome. If you are here, it would be great if you could say hello in the chat so I know who's there and we can have some kind of dialogue, because I don't have any questions prepared in advance. So it would be great if you could already questions in the chat. So like I said in the beginning, this is mainly Carl Jung, and he's originator, OG, original father, dad, to celebrate the birthday of someone who's not with us anymore, but I still thought it's a good occasion. It's just amazing that he was born 150 years ago and his teachings are still with us. So maybe that's a bit cheesy, but for the occasion I wanted to light a candle. So yeah, and I don't have any questions yet. I will talk a bit more about Carl Jung and who he is, and also a bit of a personal story, I guess, like how I got into personality type stuff. Yeah, by the way, if you don't know me, I am a personality typologist, you could say. I am the founder of Typevolution. You can call me Olympia. And I have been low-key, high-key obsessed with personality types since around 2013, 2014. This is when I got into it, so it's been a long time now. And for several years or a couple years, I've also been typing and coaching people online. And you can find everything about that on typevolution.com. All right. Hello, welcome. Where do you live? Okay, I have to be honest, I don't really like to disclose my current location that much because, yeah, I want to keep my privacy a little bit, but I can say I live in Europe and I was born in Germany, Berlin. Hi. Okay, more people are joining. Hi. I'm good. I apologize if you can hear the fan in the background. So my nationality is German. Okay. All right, so like I said, I want to light a candle for Carl Jung's birthday. Oh, New York City, that's great. I'm not married, not yet, I guess. I am engaged. I have a partner, so yeah. Okay. A lot of questions are coming, a lot of personal questions. How did you learn English in school? Yeah, a lot of compliments. Thank you guys or girls who are complimenting. Makeup helps and lighting helps a lot as well. So, okay. Here's the candle. So this is for Carl Jung's birthday. Thank you for the congratulations. So like I also said online, that I'm actually eternally grateful for him, because discovering him and the personality type systems, mbti and socionics, and also Enneagram, but Enneagram is not Jungian, but I mean, when you study personality types, you will eventually come across Enneagram. Just stumbling across all this literally changed my life, so I want to honor his birthday, even though he's not with us anymore. So yeah, so this is the candle for Carl Jung, and yeah, I'm just gonna think about it all for a moment. Do you guys know about him? How much do you know about personality types? I'm curious. What do you know about Carl Jung and about personality types? Are you beginner, advanced? Just let me know. Or if you don't know anything about him, that's fine too. What do you do? Like I said, I coach and type people's personalities. So I coach when it comes to personality types. I also coach a bit when it comes to finding a partner, but I mostly help women with that, occasionally guys as well. Yeah, I am originally from Germany. What kind of coach? Yeah, that's a good question. Personal development and, like I said, a little bit also, well, also finding a partner, basically, because this is what I used the personality type theory for in my own life as well. All right, okay, I guess that's enough with the candle. I'm still gonna have it here. What kind of partner are you looking for? I already have a partner, so it's not for me. The question is, what kind of partner are you looking for? So, okay. All right, I'm not gonna answer every single question because not every question is gonna be relevant, right? So I'm gonna answer a few personal questions, but I will mostly focus on personality types and coaching and personal development and relationship stuff. So this is the main topic. Also, Carl Jung, I don't know if you know, but he is the one who, like I said, came up with the concept of introversion, extroversion, cognitive functions, also the collective unconscious. I don't think he came up with dream analysis per se, but he was also very big on dream analysis. So all of these things are my own interests as well, and I also like to deal with those subjects in my coaching. So you can find more on typevolution.com. That's my website. I'm coming from your OnlyFans page. Okay, that's funny because I don't have an OnlyFans. So that's a nice spam comment, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I see a lot of random people are here. So anyway, okay. So my story with how I came across Carl Jung in the very beginning. So that was, like I said, 2013, 2014. I was going through a very rough time in my life, very lost, very unhappy, and I had to figure out what am I gonna do in my life. And around that time, I was actually kind of obsessed with Batman villains. So Batman villains, a lot of them have personality disorders, if you know or don't know. So I would look that up. I was really curious about personality disorders in the beginning. So I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe I'm just gonna study about that. Maybe I'm just gonna focus on personality disorders. And my mom bought me a book because she knew I was interested in psychology. She gave me a book on, yeah, just psychology in general. And I went through it. I also went through the personality disorders and everything like that. But I was the most intrigued actually by the pages about personality types. I have to say, I don't exactly remember what the book said about that. I think it was mostly focusing on certain traits, maybe Big Five, because Big Five is the personality system that official psychologists like to use because it's more scientifically validated. Funny enough though, the concept of extraversion, introversion, even in the Big Five, comes from Carl Jung. I think that says enough. Anyway, so I was really interested in this aspect, and I just started Googling it, And then I came across personality types as a test. Nowadays, you would probably find 16 personalities tests online. So back then it was a different website, but the same gist. And from then on, I guess the rest is history, right? Like I just got sucked in. I took personality tests. I also have my own mini test, by the way. It's also on my website, typevolution.com. So if you want to take it, you're welcome. It's also based on Jungian theory. It's based on a mix of MBTI and socionics. So not the 16 personalities website version, but like I said, my own take, which is a mix of MBTI and socionics, which are two different theoretical systems that have derived from Jung. Jung did not come up with them himself. He was already not there anymore, but people who were fans of Carl Jung later on came up with a system, because even though Carl Jung came up with or observed personality differences and personal cognitive functions first, I guess you could say, he did not really put it into a coherent system. So he did write about extroversion, introversion, sensing, intuition, perceiving, judging, etc. But it was not put into specific types. So he would talk about the extroverted thinking type, for example, which would be nowadays ENTJ, ESTJ. So the type that has it as a first function. So he would do that. Mostly he would talk about the first function type. And I guess you can maybe argue, okay, it would also apply to the second function type to some extent, but it was mostly focused on the first function. So he didn't really come up with MBTI types, but they are really heavily based on his theory. So yeah, so this is how I got into it, I guess. I just looked it up, I did my research, I joined forums, Facebook groups, all kinds of communities, you could say. Like I said, that was in like 2014, so over 10 years ago now. And yeah, and then eventually I also came across MBTI, Enneagram, socionics. So like I said, Enneagram is a different personality system, but most of these personality websites and forums mentioned Enneagram as well. So yeah. Okay, I'm getting a lot of random questions. Like I said, if there's anybody who has questions specifically about the personality types, that would be great. Or even just psychology, you know, anything like that. I will answer those. So yeah, I guess it's my history. I can talk a bit more about that. So that's how I got into those communities, forums, etc., etc. And I was searching, right? I was on a search for what I should do with myself, obviously, who I am, right? Especially when you're younger, you want to figure out who you are. And also what kind of personality would be the most compatible with me. So I basically just delved into the theory. First, I tried to figure it out with myself. I first had to figure out, okay, what is my type? So I did that. What are my types? And then from then on, I started testing out the theory. So I started, okay, then the next step was, okay, I want to know examples of every personality type. And the thing is, there are examples online, right? Like there are websites, examples for each type. Also, if you go to the 16 personalities website, they're gonna have examples for every type, but not all of them are gonna be accurate. And of course you can argue, yeah, yours are not accurate either, fair enough, I guess. But you kind of have to see what is the common thread. And I just noticed with a lot of the examples, a lot of times, some of them are kind of random. So they will give examples that are not even close to the real type. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of looking at this. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to also figure it out with the cognitive functions. So yeah, so I gradually started trying to find, like I said, examples of every type in real life. In real life, and also online, I guess, or like with celebrities or public persons, whatever you want to call it. Because it can be difficult to find every example in real life, right? As people often don't take into account that their own type influences who they were going to come across, and also their social circle or their families and things like that. So you might not get a full picture of all the types that are out there. So okay, hopefully it's better now. Yeah, so dominant function for me is introverted intuition. Funny enough, I think Carl Jung himself had introverted intuition as a first function. I know a lot of people think he was like INTP or something, but I think he was INFJ, at least according to my system, if you want to say that. I call INFJ the psycho-spiritualist, and he is just the quintessential INFJ in my opinion. However, as a caveat, I mean, he obviously had, like you could say, genius level intelligence. Like his level of intelligence is superior to most people. So it might skew the impression of his type a little bit. He, I would say, has had very strong introverted intuition coupled with very strong intelligence. So you could say also introverted intuition subtype, and then also the introverted intuition subtype, especially when it's very strong and the person is very intelligent, they're gonna go a lot into their introvert thinking as well. It's gonna create like those so-called loops, NITI loops. So that can make some INFJs look like INTPs. So I think this was the case for him. So I think that's how he could come across as INTP. But if you read his books, if you just delve yourself into his, yeah, in German you would say Materie, like in his body of work, then you can see just how much it's introverted intuition. And I was also just, before this live, I wanted to just look up, okay, what does Wikipedia say about him? What you know, what do you find when you Google him? And on the side it says, Carl Gustav Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and psychologist who founded the School of Analytical Psychology. A prolific author of over 20 books, illustrator, and correspondent, Jung was a complex and convoluted academic, best known for his concept of archetypes. Okay, that's interesting actually. I don't think archetypes is what he's most known for. I think he's most known for introversion, extroversion, or actually most people don't even know that's what he's known for. But technically that's his most well-known concept. Anyway, so convoluted, okay? He's very convoluted. His writing is very associative. It's just so much introverted intuition. It's so much about, you could say, introspective ideation. So introverted intuition is about almost seeing yourself in the idea, in the object, or it's reflecting yourself back onto you. So I guess, I mean, a classic example is like looking into a crystal ball, right? Like you're not actually looking into, I mean, you're looking into a crystal ball, but what's actually happening is you're looking at a reflection of yourself. I mean, yes, literally, but at its best, you conjure up inner images, right? Or you see something in it, and that's very personal to you. So this is kind of how introverted intuition operates. By the way, everyone can and does use every function. So I don't know, if some people are going to be like, oh, I use introverted intuition. Okay, but it's not just about using the function, it's also about how frequently you use it, how well you use it, What is your proficiency at it? All of that plays a role. So just because you use it sometimes, for example, doesn't mean, you know, you're good at it or that you value that function. So that's just as a side note. So yeah, I think, yeah, so here's also convoluted is also such a perceiving function problem. It's also very much a problem for people who have weaker thinking, weaker logic, like basically F-types, especially F-types who have introverted intuition or extroverted intuition first. They can be very, like INFJ and ENFP, I'd say are probably the most convoluted types, especially if they have an intuition subtype, because intuition is so abstract and perceiving. It's not very linear necessarily. I mean, I guess introverted intuition is a bit more linear than extroverted intuition, which is even more off the wall. But yeah, so, and funny enough, I also thought that, I mean, it's, well, I guess it's fact, back in the day when I was still in school, when I was in high school and also before high school, middle school, I guess, you know, in Germany, one of the most common critiques I got was that my writing was, I guess, also convoluted. So in German, it is more, I guess, acceptable or common to have long sentences. So my sentences were always way too long. I would put all kinds of commas and etc., etc. Like the sentences would go on for so long, and usually then my teacher would like write on the side, like, you know, cut up the sentence. It doesn't make sense anymore. Like, come to a point. What do you mean? You know. And I noticed the same, like a very similar quality in Jung's writings. In contrast, like INTPs or like introvert thinking in general is so succinct. It's way more to the point. It's logical. You don't really, especially with INTP, I think also IxTP, you don't really get this kind of convoluted, like just running on sentence and all that kind of stuff. You don't really get that. So yeah, they're just very logical, very to the point, and I had to train myself to be like that. And I guess actually English helped me with this, because in English it's more common to have shorter sentences. They would also tell me in English, okay, you have to shorten your sentences. So I was just forced to shorten my sentences, get rid of the commas, and over time I became more and more succinct, you could say. But I don't know if you noticed, but in my lives, I'm not as succinct, I think. That's probably why my writing tends to be more on point, because I had to learn that, right? So when you go to my blog, when you also watch my videos on, for example, the Enneagram Instincts, because the Enneagram Instinct videos, the ones of the dark side, are actually written out. So I actually write out everything and then I do a voiceover. I basically just read out what I wrote. And these are some of my most popular videos, and I guess for good reason, because I am more succinct in them. Okay, someone says that's insane, because like recently I thought to look on his topics. Okay, that's cool. Okay, Colleen said, okay, let me see what you said. Colleen says, intuition is a function that aggregate patterns and symbols at subliminary level. So your brain is flooded with information that might impact deeply others, but they're not aware or just don't care. I guess, yes. Yeah, it's a complex matter. I'm also thinking now, I mean, the thing is, even though Carl Jung mostly focused on the first function in his writings, we also have a second one, which I'm glad that MBTI, socionics brought into it. I mean, even Jung himself said no one is a complete introvert or complete extrovert, meaning no one is just an introvert or just an extrovert. We all have both sides in us. So this is kind of what the second function represents, right? And even if introverted intuition is the first function, it's not standing alone. It's still connected to the second function, or just the second strongest, which is going to be feeling for INFJ and for ENFJ, I guess, right? So, and the feeling is going to be more focused on human ethics, human dynamics. I guess you could say psychology to some extent, but T-types can also be into psychology for different reasons and with different strengths. Anyway, my point is that the feeling, the extrovert feeling in INFJ can be good at, you know, understanding human dynamics and things like that. And then you couple that with the introverted intuition, then the insights that the INFJ would get might come a bit from nowhere, apparently. So they can have these insights about certain human dynamics, and the origin from that might seem to come from some indeterminate place, right? So what's different, let's say, if you compare that to like a thinking type, for example, especially a thinking type that doesn't have introverted intuition as the first or second function, so like any ST type basically. Of course, they can also arrive at very astute, actually, observations when it comes to human dynamics. So don't just think, oh, it's only F types or only INFJs who are good at social or human dynamics. Even ST types can sometimes be good at that, especially ExTPs and IxTPs, believe it or not. But it's the conclusions and how they arrive at them are different, right? So with the SE, the extrovert sensing, it's very much focused on, okay, what's the person's physical behavior, their body language, their appearance. Okay, I'm getting a lot of hearts right now, that's great. So they're scanning people, and so they know exactly where their insights come from. They come from the observed information, the sensorial external information, right? And then they can arrive at logical conclusions from that. So, but as a side note, also a lot of ExTPs and IxTPs can still struggle with mistrusting people, being overly distrustful, especially IxTP, because still the feeling is still weak, right? So it doesn't come as naturally to them. They're still better with just thinking, and you could say inhuman, unhuman, non-human matters. So it's still a bit tricky for them. So they can still come to the wrong conclusions. But anyway, so still they can also have good observations. So for them, it's way more tangible, right? Whereas with types that don't have extrovert sensing as a first or second function, for them, it's much more like hunches. So yeah, it's more like symbolism, dreams, what else? I used to say the voice of wisdom. That's what I used to call it, the voice of wisdom, just like whispering something in your ear or something. Like these kinds of things. With sensing types, it's way more directly tied to the physical, either something they have observed like literally, and it's very much like a scanning situation, or X-ray almost, or what also a lot of people misunderstand or don't get is a lot of introverted sensing can look like introverted intuition. I actually made a video about this. What was it called again? I think something like, are you a sensing type? Is sensing your superpower? Or something like that. Because introverted sensing, they can also get hunches because it's introverted perception, but their hunches are going to be like a gut feeling, or yeah, it's like still very physical basically. Whereas introvert, like intuition in general, is not physical, so it's way more heady, you know. It's way more like I don't know, like impressionistic, I suppose, but the impressionism is really mental. I know it's, maybe we're splitting hairs here. I'm aware that we all have a brain, we all have a body, right? Like we all have senses. At the end of the day, also intuitive types use their senses, right? I know it can sometimes be like, oh, you're just splitting hairs, right? But still, I'm kind of trying to differentiate it a little bit. At least the experience for an intuitive is not sensorial, or it's not tied to the physical as much. Oftentimes it's also more visual, I guess. But the visualism, I guess, if you can say that, is more indirect. So things like dreams, or like having a vision, and you know, things like that. Okay, I was just rambling a lot, sorry. Maybe I lost my point, I don't know. Did you ever read Bernay's Propaganda? Still very much applies today. No, I have not read that, but that sounds interesting. Okay, yeah, Colleen mentions, yeah, INFJ, NI, dominant, NIFE, spiritual counseling things, NITI as a superpower to understand and explain hard things, or TIFE to teach tech stuff, tech support. Okay. Wait. Well, what do you mean with like, are you saying that like these are different subtypes or something? I'm a little bit confused about that. Okay, Colin says, and I and Jung and me and others is like walking through others' minds with the assumption you know their internal program, but you feel you can fix them. I'm not sure about that one. I don't think NI is necessarily like this. Knowing someone's internal program can also be related to other functions, like introvert thinking, or even introvert, I think actually introvert feeling rather. Like knowing what someone is feeling internally, I'd say is actually more related to introverted feeling. INFJ actually, IEI and socionics has good introverted feeling as well. So it can kind of seem to overlap a little bit, but types like INFP and ISFP with strong introverted feeling as a first function can be equally good at this, not maybe even better at it, because it's their first function and they are more naturally in it at all times, but they might not even notice that they're in it all the time. Introvert intuition can be blind. I don't know. I've gotten the critique that introverted intuition often sounds like a superpower, like literally, like better than every other function. But it's not really true, because, okay, so all introverted functions can be blind towards external reality. All of them, all the introverted functions. Okay, I guess to be fair, everyone can be blind in some ways to what is the truth or reality. Okay, but besides that, especially introverted functions can be blind towards the external, because they're turned towards the internal. And this is also what I like about Jung's original concept, which is often misunderstood, because a lot of times they say introversion is just not being sociable and extroversion is being sociable, and that's not really the case. Introversion is really the internal subjectivity. So introverted intuition can actually be blind towards reality, towards other people, a bit less so, because the let's say in INFJ's case, they have still feeling, right? So it depends also on the other functions, but how it can be blind, because the introvert, especially if it's not balanced out by the extrovert function, is just looking at themselves, right? So let's say with introverted feeling, when they are very much just all about introverted feeling and they just disregard everything else, and they're kind of unhealthy as well, it's all about just, okay, what do I feel? What do I feel is right? What do I feel is best? What are my preferences? What do I personally think about this person, the situation, etc. Blah blah blah, you know. And it can become very, yeah, quote unquote, selfish, or very very much navel gazing in a way. And you can have that with all the introverted functions. So introverted intuition as well, it can all just be about, okay, what do I see in this situation, in this vision, in this symbol, in this occurrence, like what is my interpretation of it, what does it mean, what could it lead to, what are the implications, like, you know, all of these things. And it can all just be also very much just wrong or blind towards other information. So this is why we need the balance of both. That's why we need both introversion and extroversion, to have some kind of balance. We cannot just be all about introversion. We also cannot just be all about extroversion. It can be a delicate balance, but it has to be there. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting hearts. Yay. Thank you. Too many people think they are neurodivergent these days. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. I have to agree. You need a mod in here. Yeah, I think I need a mod. Yeah. I don't know. How can I make people mods? Oh wait, I can okay, let me okay, let me just report somebody. Okay, I wanna. Okay, yeah, I think I will need a mod at some point. I didn't expect so many people to, you know, to join. I guess it's just because it's live, it attracts so many random viewers. Can I be a mod? Okay, I don't know. Okay. Okay, Gnostic type says, you agree with Jung being INFJ? Sorry, you may have mentioned, I missed it. Yes, I do think so. I do think so. And not everybody thinks so. Some people think INTP or whatever other type you might think of, but I think he's a poster child of INFJ, with a little caveat that he is probably like a genius level intelligence. Like his intelligence is very, very high, and he's also introverted intuition subtype, probably a strong subtype. So yeah, but still overall, I would still say he's INFJ. I call psychospiritualist. Have you ever looked into David Keirsey's work on the types, the Please Understand Me books? Yes, I read the, okay, I don't know, I read one of the books. I think it was version 2 or something. I did read it. I mean, that was many years ago, so it's like 10 years ago now that since I read this book. What I can remember, I find that it was a bit too simplistic. It had still some good points, but let me think. I think he group the types according to like NF, NT, but also SP and SJ, right? So first of all, Keirsey didn't use cognitive functions as far as I know. So he totally ignored the functions, which in my book is a mistake. And then NF and T with those groupings I agree with, but once again, if you ignore the functions, there's still going to be discrepancies, because the functions also make the types and it makes them different. But still, NF and T, okay. They still have very similar strengths and weaknesses, so that's fair. However, with SPSJ, it was problematic. And back then I also would talk to, like, you know, IxTPs, whatever, and they would sometimes not be able to fully relate to the SP stereotype in his book, because the SP stereotype basically was just like a hardcore ESFP or ESTP, maybe even extrovert sensing subtype, who's like super active, super daredevil, super like experiencing everything, you know. And not every ICP, ISFP especially is going to relate to this, especially if they are leaning towards stronger introversion, because they have introvert thinking or introvert feeling as a first function. And in that case, yeah, you're not going to be that, you know, super daredevil, adventurous, active, and all that stuff. So that was a problem with that. And yeah, similar issues with the SJ. And then when you go to socionics, they actually you can group the types into so-called clubs. And the clubs are NF, NT, ST, and SF. And this is way better, at least in my opinion. This is way better, way more accurate, because ST, SF includes having strong sensing and feeling, having strong sensing and thinking, and not just like having strong SE or having strong introvert sensing or something. So that it's way more accurate. So at least that's my opinion. I also didn't agree with his compatibility recommendations. I mean, his compatibility recommendations are just the standard MBTI recommendations, right? So they would say, I think, INFJ, for example, with ENFP or ENTP. I mean, this is what most people would say, not just Keirsey. So, okay. But yeah, so these are just the thoughts I had on that book. People respect introvert, not extrovert. I would actually disagree. I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask. But recently on Facebook, I think I saw a story like where someone was saying something like, being an introvert is not cool, get over it, you know, along those lines, like it's like I think they said it's a character flaw, a personality flaw to be an introvert. Just try to be an extrovert like the rest of us, or something like that along those lines. It was kind of funny because once again, it's including the misunderstanding of what introversion is. Basically, the person was just, what they really meant was, okay, learn social skills like the rest of us. Learn how to be sociable. Don't be asocial, don't be a jerk or something. I don't know. You know, like, this is what they really meant. And the examples they also gave were like, it was like a woman, and she said, oh, I'm tired of always being the one hosting dinner parties. And it's like, okay, well. And then actually in the comments, some people said, well, actually, maybe she's an introvert. So that was really funny. So she thought, like, yeah, anyway. So I think in a lot of culture, it depends, of course. I think, this was also in America. So it was an American woman. So maybe, I think in America also, it's expected that you act sociable. It's expected that you know, have social skills and act like an extrovert on the surface, at least. So yeah, I think this also plays a role. I think in other cultures, they don't care as much if you act sociable or bubbly or not, you know. So yeah, so some cultures are more disrespectful towards a lack of social skills, I think, than others. Okay, I'm just looking through comments. Okay, Gnostic Type says, I agree, Jung was very clearly INFJ. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, obviously. If you want to read my, like, just as a side note, if you want to read my type descriptions, go to typevolution.com/tvt. And there you can find my Jungian inspired type descriptions. Also, if you want me to type you, then go to typevolution.com/services. I'm actually planning to do a flash sale. So I think I'm gonna do like 50% off, probably, for the sake of Jung's birthday. So 50% off if you get a Jungian typing, like basically like 16 types typing with me, or if you get the full typing. So the full typing is Jungian type, Enneagram type, and instincts, and a coaching session. But for that, you have to fill out the form. So you can go to typevolution.com/services and just fill out the form, and let me know. You can say like somewhere in the form, I watched your live, can I have the discount or something like that, for the flash sale. But I'm also going to send out some emails. If you're on my email list, you will get the email with the flash sale code as well. So I will probably put some kind of note about the flash sale here later, but you are the first ones to know now. And I think the flash sale is going to be from the start of this live, like within the next 48 hours. So yeah. Okay, that was as a side. Okay, side note. Okay, please read the comments. Okay, I'm reading comments, but I'm also skimming some comments that are not, relevant. Okay, I'm just looking. Oh yeah, we were on the topic of neurodivergent. I think I totally lost the plot. How did I don't even remember what my answer was. Wow. Okay. I need a break, one moment. I need to gather myself. My memory is not good. My memory is really not good. What did I say? I totally went off topic, I think. To come back to the topic, because someone mentioned neurodivergence again. Yes, a lot of people think nowadays they are neurodivergent. A lot of people think they have ADHD, that they have autism, all kinds of things. I notice way more people are getting diagnosed with those conditions. And I know the main argument is, oh, it's just because people are more aware of it now, and that's why more people get diagnosed. Okay, I guess, fair enough. I mean, that is probably part of it. But I think the other part is also just overexposure and also over analysis and at least, okay, if you know about personality types, it's so obvious that, for example, ADHD is just oftentimes strong extroverted intuition or strong extrovert sensing. At least I'm not a psychologist, just as a side note, just as a disclaimer. And I'm also not an expert on ADHD, so we can have a discussion about this. But just the general idea of ADHD, like an overactive mind, or like being overactive. Also, they often diagnose kids, right? So it's like, okay, the kid cannot sit still. The kid is very active, has trouble concentrating and things like that. Oftentimes, it's really just extrovert sensing is strong or extrovert intuition is strong. Like usually the first function, but sometimes even just the second function, maybe even with like a subtype or something. And the problem is that the kid is just not in an environment that engages the function properly. But yeah, like I said, I'm not an expert, I'm not a psychologist, so take it with a grain of salt, but I still think a lot of the diagnoses are over the top, and a lot of times it's just the personality of the person, like personality type. And also, once you understand that better and you create a lifestyle that suits it better, oftentimes the issues go away. So, for example, a lot of extrovert intuition kids or people who are coming across as ADHD, right? They just need to find subjects that they're very interested in, that where their minds can go, ooh, where they can make all kinds of connections and all that kind of stuff. So once you put them into these situations or environments, then they can focus. And it's like, ooh, they can focus now. And yeah, it's because their mind is actually being enriched now. So it depends. But like I said, it's a controversial topic. I still think some people are maybe not misdiagnosed per se, but like overdiagnosed, if that makes sense. I've also had a client in the past who I think, what did he get diagnosed with? Like, I don't even remember exactly what the diagnosis was. Maybe generalized anxiety, but also they basically just told him like he was kind of stupid or something. Like, like really bizarre, like just that he wouldn't be able to do much, like that his IQ was low or something like that. I don't know exactly the details, to be honest, but it was like, well, maybe now you would say it was like autism or something, but yeah, he is an IxTP. So okay, it's common for IxTPs, by the way, to have generalized anxiety disorder when they're unhealthy, because they're usually type 6 in the Enneagram as well. So it's a very common diagnosis when they're unhealthy. And the problem was that he was just in environments that didn't suit his personality. He also had strong introvert thinking subtype. So if you expect someone who is a thinking type and strong thinking subtype and things like that, if you expect them to be super sociable or be super like good with people, you expect too much. It's like expecting a fish to fly, right? Like, I don't know. So yeah, we just focused more on, okay, what is your personality actually good at, right? Like, what is it actually meant to do? And then things just got better, you know, like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, my point is oftentimes people just misdiagnose. They don't really look into what is actually the person's personality and what can they actually do with it. What is the right environment and the right lifestyle for their personality? That's often the actual crux of the problem. So that's why it's good to, know your personality type. And like I said, you can get typed by me. You find all the information in the description box. Okay. Okay, so okay says, I have a friend whose psychologist was pushing that she was neurodivergent and that was the reason she felt a certain way, etc. Anyway, she took the test and was told she isn't. I find it unprofessional. Oh my gosh. This sounds... I'm really wondering, is your friend some kind of SF type or some kind of... I don't want to blame always SF people, but okay, maybe not. Okay, let me backtrack. Not necessarily SF, but it sounds like either SF or some NF, like some kind of... It makes me think of people with introvert feeling as a first or second function. And the reason is that they are very much about, once again, how do I feel? I feel like I'm neurodivergent, right? And especially ISFPs and ESFPs are very aware of social trends in the external environment, right? So they're very much aware of, okay, at the moment neurodivergent is a thing. So do I feel like this is me, right? This is kind of what can happen. I mean, also ENFP, INFP, everybody can fall into this, but I'm just saying this because it's the more common for these kinds of types. Yeah, but I guess it's ironic that she turned out not to be neurodivergent. I don't know. Even I started like at some point thinking, okay, am I something like that? But it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm neurodivergent or not. Like, I probably have also neurodivergent traits or autistic traits, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, okay, I guess people would say, okay, because it doesn't affect your life negatively, it doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But in some situations, it's gonna come out, or I'm gonna come across awkward or weird or something, right? It always depends on the context. So I guess it's different with me as well, because I grew up with a sibling who was diagnosed with a certain condition that's, yeah, on the spectrum or whatever. And I think in his case it was actually accurate, but I'm glad that my parents never went with medicating him. But instead they tried to, make sure that he gets social skills, that he gets some kind of therapy, that, giving like making sure he has a hobby that he can focus on. So all of these things they helped. So yeah, I don't know, but that was before it was trendy. So yeah, anyway, Jack says I'm an INFJ that loves music and fighting, kickboxing in the ring. That sounds very extrovert sensing, Jack. That sounds like you have extrovert sensing as a first or second function. Just to be honest, okay? Because like fighting, kickboxing, that's so extrovert sensing. Okay, says unprofessional that a psychologist is pushing this narrative. Yes, it is unprofessional, but at the same time, it's a trend right now. So also recently I had a client who told me, oh yeah, my kid got diagnosed with autism. And okay, I don't want to go into specifics if the client feels uncomfortable with that, but just based on the context, I was thinking maybe the child is not even autistic. Maybe the child is just, okay, I have to go to Enneagram now for this moment, social instinct last. So if your social instinct is the last instinct in your stack, like in your priority list, then you won't be interested so much in social stuff and social interactions, social dynamics, etc., etc. I mean, there are F-types even with social instinct last. It's a bit of a, it can seem a bit contradictory at times because they are good at something that they don't value. But it's possible. So I don't know. There might be some people who are like labeled as autistic and they just don't have much of an interest in social things. And they're maybe very intelligent and that's about it. But once again, the problem is there are people who actually are actually the thing, but then there are also people who get over misdiagnosed. So yeah. Oh, I'm playing with this random what is it thing. Okay. Gnostic says, I'd really like to say that your videos on how certain types have similar speech patterns and even physical characteristics are some of the best MBTI related vids on YouTube. Underrated stuff. Thank you for that. I'm always cautious when it comes to physical characteristics. So the videos he is referring to, or they are referring to, is my videos on the voice types, and it's actually originating from a theory by Viktor Gulenko, who is a socionist. Socionics is something like the MBTI. It's another big system that is based on Carl Jung's work. And one of the theories in there is about that, you know, all like the types, there are 4 different communication styles. And I've made videos about this, and you can actually even kind of hear it. I try to find good examples where you can actually hear it, because a lot of my viewers, I think, have extrovert sensing as a first or second function, or as a valued function at least. So they're very auditory. So I made sure I tried to find examples that are very obvious. Actually, I did not type people like this in the beginning myself. Like I guess because it's more unconscious for me, right? I didn't walk around and was like, okay, this person has this communication style and that means that they're this type. But when I came across the theory and I wanted to make some videos about it, I started like going through my examples. By the way, I have another blog, viptypology.wordpress.com, which is full of, you know, celebrity typings I made and everything like that. So then I went back to my old typings, and then I went into, okay, now I'm gonna see and listen what they like, how they actually talk, and then that's how I made the video. Like I didn't start out with the how they talked. I just overall looked at the gestalt, you could say, like their overall behavior and what they said and things like that, and I typed them on based on that, and then I went back with that theory and all that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, that was like a backstory on this. Looks like she's having a major in gender studies and psychology. I did not. I mean, what is there a problem with that? But I did not. I did not. I'm liberal, but at the same time, I also believe in some more traditional gender dynamics, you could say, based on biology. So I'm a bit in the middle, you could say. I'm not really fully, you know, how you say, anything works or something like that. But it's a tricky subject. Gnostic type says you're 100% right. Personality types can solve so many of these so-called mental issues like ADHD. Every INFP will have ADHD. Exactly. Like, the exception might be some INFPs who have like an FI subtype, who lean a bit more towards ambiversion. They often are a bit more mellowed out. But the basic general ENFP, ENTP, ESFP, ExTP, they will all act like they have ADHD on the surface, and they often get diagnosed with ADHD even if it's not really a problem. So it's very common. And even some introverts like ISFPs, IxTP might get like diagnosed with ADHD, or they often think they might have ADHD. Also INFP and INTP, but a bit lesser extent, I think. But nowadays the concept of ADHD has expanded quite a lot. So I think now it even includes traits that are not about hyperactivity, but you know, like aspects where I'm even thinking it might even include introverted intuition types now. But then it becomes kind of meaningless. Okay, I'm getting more like questions in regards to like what is it called, personality disorders. Like, once again, I'm not a, even though I originally was interested in personality disorders, I'm not an expert in personality disorders per se, so I'm just kind of giving you my thoughts on it, but it's a bit of a layman's thoughts. I'm more of an expert in personality types, so I can kind of give you some correlations perhaps, but I'm not like an expert in personality disorder. I just want to give that disclaimer. Okay, Gnostic type is making some good comments. Also, he says bipolar patients will most likely be feeling types who aren't living in balance. They live an unhealthy lifestyle, which results in bipolar emotions since they have such strong feelings. Yeah, that's basically it. I would agree with that. She's very introverted. Actually, that's true. At least. Oh wait, you meant your. Did you mean your psychologist friend? Okay, sorry. Me too, but I thought you meant me because you said she. Okay. Okay. Okay, more questions. Okay, I'm gonna go soon, but I'm gonna answer a few more questions or comments or something. Your friendly opinion on the type that's, Sage says, on the type that's making the world worse and the type that's more needed to make the world better. Of course, understand if you don't want to answer. I don't know if it's a cop-out. I sometimes feel like my answers sound like cop-outs, but hear me out. Because my first thought is just, we already have all the types we need. We just need more healthy versions of the types. I know that I guess it's kind of popular to have like all these ranking videos. Oh, the type most likely to be this, to be that, to be evil, to be good, whatever. And maybe there are some of these correlations in real life. It's debatable. But my opinion really is we just need more healthy people. We just need more people who are what I call on the light side of their functions. I also made a blog article about this on typevolution.com. Also, my battery is dying soon, so I'm gonna go soon. So you can find the article on my blog, light, dark side of the functions. We just need people who are more on the light side of their functions. I think type distribution is something we don't have any control over anyway. There seems to be some kind of genetic component, some kind of social component, like, I don't know how it works exactly. I'm also not an expert on genetics, but somehow it seems like just the right amount or a certain amount of types get born. Kind of like how around 50-50 male females get born. There seems to be some kind of mechanism where a certain amount of types get born more often than other types. And I think this is correct, or this is how it's supposed to be, I suppose. We cannot change our types anyway, so yeah. So it matters more that you are healthy than that you're unhealthy. Unhealthy types make the world worse. I have to say, people who have the most power and who are the most unhealthy are making the world the worst. And people who have the most power, I guess, in our society at the moment are often the ones who are the richest. Not always, but there seems to be a strong correlation between being rich and being powerful. And a lot of the richest people in the world are ENTJs, which I call the entrepreneur. You can find it also on my blog. I don't think all of them are unhealthy, or, well, I guess it's debatable. I don't think all of them are necessarily evil, but that would be an example. But at the same time, I still think we need ENTJs in our society. We need them. They are very valuable in other ways. So I would not say, oh, you should get rid of them. Or we cannot do that anyway, but yeah. So that's like an example of like what can be bad or something, but anyone can be bad or good, any type, and even like on a smaller scale, you can create a lot of evil or havoc. So yeah. And you can also do a lot of good on a smaller scale, and you might not, it might be like a ripple effect or like the butterfly effect, right? Like you can do a little bit of good in certain situations, and it has this ripple effect that you might not even realize is going on. So okay. Okay. I'm just okay, I'm just going through the comments. Okay, this might be like the last thing I respond to. If I suddenly disappear, it's because my battery died. If you want me to type you have to fill out my form. You can find it on typevolution.com/services. I'm gonna do a flash sale. If you want to have like a sale, a big discount before Jung's birthday, you can write it in the form somewhere, or you can send me an email. But I think I want you, if you really want to be typed by me, like no joke, you're serious about it, or if you want to be coached by me and you're serious about it, you don't just want to like hang out or talk or something, I'm not there for that, sorry. But if you actually are serious about personal development, and then go to my website typevolution.com/services and fill out the form, and based on the form I will see if you're a good fit for the coaching or not, or the typing or not, whatever is the case. So yeah. Okay, last thing, if I disappear, I'm sorry. What about your thoughts on the reason why we're born as the types we are born as? It seems to me that it has to do with how we lived in previous lives, with the IN types clearly being older souls. So this is a good question. Okay, so the more I guess practical answer is, like I said earlier, depending on, I think, family structure and also societal structure, certain types get born more than others. I also noticed that in my own family structure and other family structures. Often family structures actually mirror society as well. So there are oftentimes certain types that are more common in the family, and the same applies to society as well. But it depends. Like, maybe there are some families where some rarer types appear more often than in other families, and it all adds up to the right distribution across society. I think this is the more practical answer. So you just get born with whatever type has to be there at that point in time that is like filling a spot. I guess it's not that glamorous or not that of a higher answer. But when we go more into like previous lives, I don't know. I personally don't really believe in previous lives, at least with the way how we are right now, or like the essence. But I guess if you think that your ancestors are a part of you and you are a part of them, then it's kind of like previous lives, right? So it's possible that perhaps part of you was, an ancestor in the past, that an ancestor in the past had the same personality type as you, which is probably very likely, just based on, across time, there had to be probably someone who had to have the same personality as you. So perhaps a part of them is in you and is now living it out in 2025, So I think that's a possibility, but that's about it. I think. I mean, at this point in time, that's what I would say. But I think it's still significant. It's still meaningful if you want to think about it like that. Okay. Man, these stupid comments about me having OnlyFans is pretty funny, but I'm still gonna delete it because it's kind of ridiculous. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna delete some comments. Oh man. Yeah, I think I will have to have some mod at some point. Thanks for answering. You're the best. Take care. Happy birthday, Jung. Okay, yeah. It all started with Jung's birthday. All right. Like I said, if you want me to type you or if you want to get coached by me, you can go typefusion.com/services and you can, what is it called? Fill out the form. And yeah, we'll see if we can work together. Okay, let me see. Is there anything else I can respond to? But yeah, like I said, I'm taken, so it's only business related. All right, okay, have a good rest of your day wherever you are, and bye.